For the first time in 5 years, an insider, this time Tesla board member Joe Gebbia, just bought Tesla stock. Joe is the co-founder of Airbnb, and he bought $1.02 million worth of Tesla stock at an average price of $256 per share. Is this a signal that he thinks that stock is about to jump, or is this a nothing burger given his multi-billionaire net worth? Second, Tesla just dropped a new video showing the progress update for Tesla Semi. We'll take a closer look at the Tesla Semi factory in Nevada that's ready to be built inside to eventually manufacture 50,000 units per year. Expect the first units out this year and ramp in 2026. While great for the mission, we'll look at how many Optimus bots can be made for each Tesla Semi battery pack. Third, New York is adding an additional $2,000 incentive to encourage electric vehicle sales. That means now you can get $9,500 off an EV. Finally, let's look at Tesla's future businesses. What could be the next multi-trillion-dollar business on Tesla's plans? I've got a couple ideas. We've got Hans and Nelson joining us. We're going to ask him that question as well. Welcome, Hans.
Thanks for having me, Herbert.
So this is a topic that a number of people have been waiting for. Why is it that insiders are not buying Tesla stock? In fact, Tesla Q would point to the fact that why would you buy the stock if the board members are actually insiders are selling like crazy? And of course, every time they say that, we point out that the reasons they sell it is because they just got offered stock options, matures, they then want to have enough to pay the tax on that, or it's a pre-planned kind of thing. Every first of day of the quarter, they sell automatically. But this is good news, right? This is an insider, Tesla board member, buying stock. He purchased 1.02 million of stock, the first time an insider has purchased it in 5 years, since 2000. So this came out yesterday. Joseph Gebbia, he's the co-founder of Airbnb. He bought, looks like 4,000 at $256. Some people will come out and say, yeah, great, but it's nothing. It's like $1 million. This guy's worth billions of dollars. What's your position on this?
Well, I think that you always have to look at the fundamentals when you're evaluating whether insider buying or selling is material to your thesis or not. And for the most part, insider buying or selling in Tesla is not a key piece of information that I look at to decide, should I purchase Tesla or not? But that's for me because I'm a long-term investor and my time horizon is out 5 to 10 years at least. And over that time period, I'm not usually trying to buy and sell and time the markets. So that is a signal that usually is something that is more associated with people who are trying to time those. And they're trying to gauge the sentiment of the executive ranks of the company on, is this a good time to buy or is this a good time to sell? The fact that it is the first buy by a significant executive in 5 years, though, I do feel like is a significant thing that, for the entire, any of the board members, any of the executives not to be buying over that period of time hasn't been good for the stock. It certainly hasn't been good for the sentiment of the retail investor base. And, we've seen that stock has pretty much traded sideways to down over most of that time period. So while, like I said, I don't usually put a whole lot of weight into the buying and selling, I do think that the unique nature of the first buy in that 5 years is kind of a big deal. But then, like you said, that's just $1 million on a $7 billion net worth. That is, less than 1% of his, significantly less than 1% of his assets. And so it is hard to feel like that is a meaningful move on his part. So I think people are going to read into this differently. And the things that I look at a lot more closely are decisions by capital allocators like Brad Gerstner to significantly sell down his Uber position and buy Tesla, which he has since, I think, sold just because of market uncertainty. He's reduced all of his exposure to the public markets. But those types of, and even that move to reduce his exposure to public markets during this time of uncertainty I think that's probably a higher signal to noise ratio thing to look at than insider selling.
Yeah, I share everything you just said there. It is interesting. Why is he doing this? So first of all, he's a board member. He's getting shares, so he doesn't need to buy it. It's a small amount comparatively to what he's got. So what's the point? But then the other side is like, yeah, why? If it's nothing, why do it?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
so it's still something. So that's great. Even if it's for signaling to others, because like board members need to buy because this is the biggest complaint that Tesla Q has. Let's stop it. So maybe that's just okay. I'll throw in $1 million. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, we can't really read too much into it. What matters are the people who hold billions of dollars and still holding, like Ron Barron, Kathy Wood, and others. That's what you look at. Those are signal. Otherwise, and then the rest is whether or not Tesla's progressing and all.
Does the
good.
technology work? Are they executing on the business model over time? Those are the big questions. And the only other thing I would say on insider buying is to see if this does become a trend. I think if you start to see other executives and board members buying more regularly, then maybe the accumulation of a number of those signals is significant as well.
Yeah. So the other argument that Tesla Q has, and I just read this very recently, where one guy said, one of the reasons why I decided to sell Tesla is because Tesla doesn't have a purpose, doesn't have a mission anymore. All right. Because initially it was sustainable energy. And so people bought Tesla because they wanted to support the mission. And now they don't know what it is, but it's sustainable abundance, which is even bigger of a mission than sustainable. It incorporates sustainable energy.
Even if it's
abundance.
just sustainable energy, that we still got a long ways to go before that transition is complete. So I don't understand this. There's not a purpose.
Right. I do not understand too, but that's the other argument. And so Tesla dropped the video just recently, and it's about the Tesla Semi. So they're basically saying, right, just reminding everybody that the Tesla Semi, we know that, right? So what is it? Semi contributes, or long range truck delivery contributes what, 15% to global warming, right? It's like a big issue, right? So
yeah, it's a lot of the total emissions by vehicles. The semis make up a couple of percent of the overall vehicles in the global fleet, but they make up like an order of magnitude more than that of emissions, and it's because they're heavier and also because they drive a lot more. So the combination of the amount of usage that they get and the weight that they're carrying is what drives those much higher emissions.
Yep. And so for Tesla to, get Semi up and going, it was certainly delayed, but here we are. The factory is built. They need to now, put equipment inside of it, but they have planned to produce its first units this year and 50,000 units per year next year. 2026 is what he had said. Let's listen into the progress. And the Tesla Semi is important for the mission, more so than Tesla's revenue and what it does for the company. But
I'm Dan Priestley, and I lead the Semi program here at Tesla. Welcome to the inside of the Semi factory up here on the Gigafactory Nevada campus. We've been spending the last several months constructing this building, mostly with the walls, all of the pillars and columns that you see behind me, laying concrete, putting the roof on, and now it's time to populate the building. This factory is designed with an annual capacity of 50,000 units a year. So over the next several quarters, we're going to be industrializing this factory, installing the equipment, and preparing for high volume production. First units are set to be on the line by the end of this year, and we'll be ramping the factory throughout 2026. The Tesla Semi is designed to be directly swapped in for diesel trucks without having to compromise. This is an instrumental product in helping advance Tesla's mission. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming through the next year, not just here in the factory, but also on the product itself. Over the last few years, our pilot semis have been out in the world, operating in fleets such as Tesla's own internal operations, showcasing electric trucking is ready for scale.
That's a new logo.
Pretty cool.
So So I mean, they've been testing it out. It's been very successful in terms of test, as far as we know, because it looks like the demand is there. They're willing to build a factory of 50,000 units despite, the potential for a recession and so forth. They're building down. It was certainly delayed, but it's out there, right? So there's these sightings everywhere, not only Pepsi, but also Tesla themselves. So this is a semi being used in UC Davis here. So, yeah.
I think, it's easy to underestimate the significance of Tesla producing 50,000 of these things a year, because we all know that the Semi uses a lot more batteries than even a Cybertruck, a Model S, especially a lot in comparison to something like humanoid robotics. But there's more to it than just the battery that the vehicle has. That in order to deploy the mega charging infrastructure that's needed for these trucks to really be able to operate in all of the different routes that they need to operate on, you also need mega packs. And so the demand for lithium ion batteries that is created by producing a fleet of 50,000 Tesla semis a year is immense. And so it's a big signal to us for Tesla to actually move forward with these plans, because it does indicate that they have confidence in their ability not only to ramp semi production and the batteries necessary for semi production, but to continue to soak up mega pack production for that mega charger infrastructure as well. And there is a possibility, of course, that could bite them in the butt, and that as we are in this time with a lot of geopolitical uncertainty and supply chain challenges related to some critical components, and China really does have this stranglehold on lithium refining still, that it's not impossible that these plans to produce semi at scale do get slowed down by that, but I think it is a great sign that Tesla thinks that they can work through all those and they're ready to go ahead and launch this production now. And I think that that's one of the reasons that we've had these delays, is because contingency plans had to be worked out. That's why we needed to get the refining facility in Corpus Christi going. And I'm sure that there's a lot of things that we haven't heard about that are basically trying to make the supply chain for all of the battery raw materials more resilient, so that not only those raw materials, but then production of the 4680 batteries, both dry anode and cathode, like all of those things really have to get fully ironed out so that they can have the confidence to move forward on this. So I'm really excited for what the implications there mean. But I'm also really excited for the Semi as a product. It's going to be such an incredibly important piece of infrastructure in the next century, because it is just a much better truck than a standard diesel truck. It can go up and down hills better. The safety features that it's going to have with autonomous, the ability to do platooning at the very least, if not fully autonomous trucking, the types of freight transport costs that we can reduce with Tesla semis is going to be intense. And, I don't think people realize how much all of the things that they buy every day get moved around from place to place by trucks, and how having, or even, reducing by 25% the cost of that transportation has a very positive impact on pricing of all goods and services in the United States, and then globally. And there's a pathway for Semi to actually end up being cheaper than rail. And if we can get to that point, that is just massively positive for the economy.
Yeah. Very good point. So that's it right there, right? Why is Tesla investing in Tesla Semi? Well, if you have robo-trucking and you can get the cost per mile to be lower than, rail. I think Elon one time said that's where things change. Okay, yes, it's going to have tremendous impact. It already will have tremendous impact to economies of states and governments, companies that are manufacturing here in the US. Huge impacts. It's like the number one impact. But then once it gets to cost per mile lower than freight, lower than shipping, lower than even short haul flights, that's where things get very, very exciting. And I think that that's where they're going to get to. Is it worth it though? Because if Tesla's going to do this, it shows me that they must not be battery constrained, because that was the concern. That is the concern. But for them to go forward and say, hey, we're continuing building this factory. We're going to have, and they announce we're going to have 50,000 units per year run rate next year. That's a lot of batteries. Here's how Cern Basher compared that. 50,000 semis, that's equivalent to 20 million Optimus bots. So if you're doing 50,000 semis per year, that's 20 million bots per year that you could have used those batteries for. 50,000 times 900-ish kilowatt hour battery pack in a semi versus a 2.3 kilowatt hour battery pack in a bot.
Yeah. I mean, those are big numbers. And obviously the Tesla Optimus has a lot of also very important applications in the economy that can be hugely positive. And so,
bigger,
that's, I think on the one hand, it does show the tension, and that maybe as we de-risk the Optimus project, we might decide that, hey, you know what, it actually is a better use of our scarce resources to allocate batteries to Optimus over Semi. That's not an impossible future scenario. What it probably means is that Optimus functionality is proceeding faster than expected, which would be a very pleasant surprise, I think, for everyone. But the other way to look at this is just, wow, Tesla's ability to take batteries and turn them into extremely valuable products is unparalleled. And so, it's a very high class problem to have to decide whether or not you're going to make a bunch of money putting batteries in semis, or a bunch more money over here in Tesla Optimus,
or megapacks,
or
autonomous
the list goes on.
Yeah. And we'll talk about another business I think we should get into,
which will also require batteries.
They all do. Okay. I'm about to interview Tony Seba, and I'm reading his book, and Stellar. It's a very good book, by the way, but it talks about a future where there is unlimited surplus of supply. And one of the stellar technologies, of course, is batteries, that it just brings almost zero, the cost of energy is zero. What happens in a society in the future? And it is mind-boggling, because everything will change. Everything will change, like society, government, laws, personal ownership, just like everything changed between a hunter-gatherer, caveman days versus a, proper city kind of thing. Anyways, I got off track there. Sorry. Let's get back.
It is exciting.
One thing that's boring is electric vehicles now. That's boring. But you got New York. They're coming out with a new EV rebate program, $30 million. And basically what it does is it adds to the $7,500 point of sale. More than 60 new EVs and PHEVs are eligible for this point of sale rebate, $2,000. So that adds it there. So yeah, now you can buy an EV in New York for $9,500 off point of sale. That's a significant amount when you add up these state incentives. So I think, it's a longer show we need to do, but basically there is a move by many states that are, politically driven on one side of the aisle that is trying to hamper Tesla now specifically. But then there's still others, but this one still looks like it's pretty still promoting electric vehicle sales regardless.
Yep. And I think that's going to continue to be the case. It's going to be a patchwork here, there, and everywhere in the United States, and probably kind of net out to overall no change.
Okay, so let's talk, what businesses do you think Tesla should get into? All right. And the one that a lot of people are supporting is this idea of getting into drones. And you've heard Elon say several times now, keeps repeating, right, that global power is going to be controlled by the country that can own drones, who makes the drones. Because drones, a fleet of drones, can kill a fighter jet. Drones can basically take over. You don't need armies and so forth. So that's one concern. And China is the mass maker. I think 70% of all drones are manufactured in China. And then the other 30%, they get their supplies from some part of their supply to make that from China. So basically, China controls this, and Elon's been kind of making this say. So do you think that Tesla, the next thing that they might do is our drones?
I feel somewhat conflicted on this because, so far Elon has steered Tesla clear of any sort of defense or weapon system related technologies. Obviously, there's dual use capability for Optimus, but he's trying to limit its ability to be used as a weapon. And moving into drones, I think you could probably do something similar where they do have limited military application for your mass manufactured product. And then if something changes, you can change your product and, if necessary, go into wartime stance. I think that we are definitely moving back into an era of history that we do have to think about these things more than we've had to think about them for the past several decades. That the peace that the world as a whole, even though, not perfectly peaceful, but relatively peaceful since the fall of the Soviet Union, I think that time is over. It is, there was the Pax Romana, when Rome was able to kind of impose a very peaceful era relatively for the time and the day and age. I think that's what we've been in, Pax Americana, for the past several decades. And now that China is a rising global superpower, and we are just moving into a world that is multipolar, that there are other forces that we have to contend with, and we have to think about these things, and we have to also think about them in the context of the technologies that we build. And so whether it is Tesla or just the United States in general, we definitely need to be able to hold our own when it comes to drones. That's why companies like Anduril are incredibly important national companies, Palantir as well. And like I said, this is where I get somewhat conflicted. I kind of like not having to have Elon operating in that realm, because if you think he's political now, just wait until he's a defense contractor in
Well, it
an
doesn't have
even
to be a
bigger way
defense
than he
contractor.
is with SpaceX.
Mhm.
Well, but what he's talking about implies,
He just recently said, we do not want us. There was a comment that SpaceX had won some sort of big contract with the government, the defense, and he said, no, that's false, and we don't ever want to be there. We'll let other companies do that.
companies.
Now drones. First of all, think about it, right?
But if you're thinking about drone swarms in the context of military technology,
Right.
and then you're wanting to get into drones, then it does imply that you're thinking about
sure.
the dual use purpose of the technology.
Yeah.
So
he's thinking about it from a government perspective and a war, but think about it from, first of all, this is robots. These are robots with vision, right? And they can be powered with AI, and then they can deliver products. So when Tesla gets into delivery of products, which he said that they're going to do, he's already said, right, that Tesla robotaxis, typically in a robotaxi scenario, the usage drops off in the middle of the night. People are sleeping. And so he said, well, then we can use these cars for delivery products. Imagine if these products were being delivered at night instead. And then that's what they do. So now robot drones can do delivery. So and you need this in Mars too, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, if you can take the defense aspect off of the table, the product makes so much sense for Tesla, because, like we said, it uses what? Batteries, computers, electronics, electric motors, and then it's a logistic, like it's an AI robot. And it's a different form factor than the humanoid robot. It's a different form factor than the autonomous vehicle, but highly functional form factors. And Elon has talked a lot about wanting to create electric supersonic aircraft. And so he's already thinking about, now, will he do that? I don't know. It'll depend on whether he has time and whether or not someone else does that first. But he definitely is thinking about the application of Tesla's technology in things that fly, on top of things that go underground through boring tunnels. And so I think, like, in every other way, it makes perfect sense. And if he can do it, I don't know, there may come a time when he has to also support national defense with Tesla drones as well. But if we can withhold keep from doing that for as long as possible and make drones that are as useful as possible in as many other areas as possible, then I would be in full support of that.
Wonder how much Starlink matters to drones.
It definitely matters, and it matters not just to drones, but it matters in many areas. And yeah, there's a lot of defense implications for SpaceX in general, Starlink, Starship, and the list goes on. So yeah, that's
I mean, fast
it's
latency
already
of
an
these
area that
drones.
he's playing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think they're going to do drones. It's almost a given as far as I'm concerned. It's like the most logical thing to next do. Okay.
Yeah,
So that's,
it just depends on how much additional capacity that takes away from. I think it's going to take them a long time to fully saturate the humanoid robotics market. And so if there are other champions in those areas that can make progress while
well,
they're focusing on
yeah,
humanoids, then it's
no,
possible.
no. Yeah.
I mean, I'm really excited about a little company called Zipline that is starting doing autonomous drone delivery in the Dallas area in partnership with Walmart, I believe. And they've been already operating in the headquarters at Walmart in
Mm.
Arkansas. And it's a cool little company. They're doing drones. They're operating, an entire network of delivery drones at scale. They've got, I think, millions of deliveries that they've completed already. And so there are going to be other companies that are like this that are kind of exploring the space and fulfilling some of those customer needs. But I don't think any of them have the level of artificial intelligence capacity or expertise that Tesla has. And so that always gives Tesla an edge. And then when you
Yeah.
combine that with their ability to manufacture at scale, it's
Yeah. They already
pretty
make those
powerful.
satellite Starlink minis.
Yep.
So, first of all, just to be clear, Optimus, Tesla AI is not just building Optimus. They are going to be building a fleet of family of different kinds of, bots, four-wheeled bots, different arms, everything, anything that's going to be moving. So I don't think that their focus is just humanoids. It's going to be everything. And this is just another thing. Or Tesla will launch, Elon will launch a brand new company. He's due for a new company almost every 2 years. He starts a new company or a new product that Tesla launches.
Well, I think Doge
So
counts. So maybe we've got another
he's
2
busy.
years.
He's
Yep.
busy. Correct. That's true. Good point. And the other two businesses I think could be, one is food. It is one of the stellar technologies that you need to consider that, in order to create a society, you need to reinvent food. And that's something you'll need to do for Mars. I think
I
his
wonder if Kimball
brother's
would
into
be
that.
interested in something like that.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah. And so I think that there'll be something there. And then the third idea that I'm still stubbornly sticking with is solar panels. Again, energy generation is one of the three pillars for, this future that that master plan part 4 that Elon's talking about. And yet Tesla's not in it, or Elon's not in it. So yes, I know
Well,
it's a commodity. Can you make money off of it? Others are doing it, but
but the
you need
reason that it's a
to,
commodity
yeah.
and the reason it's hard to make money doing it is because China has heavily subsidized their solar
Mhm.
energy industry. And so in this competition with China, where we want to have supply chain and manufacturing and industrial independence from them in important areas, is definitely one of those important areas. So somebody in the United States is going to have to do this if we're actually going to maintain our sovereignty as a nation. And it certainly makes a lot of sense for Tesla to be part of that solution.
Yeah, I was looking up, Elon did a post today, and he said that it's a misunderstanding that China, that, sorry, no, I think I'm mixing it up. I think he had a post today where he's talking about how the energy requirement is much, energy production is, by far, China makes more energy than any other country, including the United States. So that's another issue he says we need
Well,
to
and
look
they're
into.
certainly planning to grow a lot more and a lot faster than we are as well. So those
Yeah.
are definitely challenges.
All right. Oh, it's always a lot of fun to talk about future businesses for Tesla. I'd like to dive a little even more deeper on this. I guarantee you, Tesla will start a new product And if not this year, well, probably not this year. They're busy. I agree with you, but soon, next year or 2 years from now, because it's like that's what they've been doing. They've been starting new businesses.
Yeah, they've got to make really good progress on the Optimus and get that.
May happen.
Yeah, not just progress, but like, we need to get to the millions of units per year run rate before we start thinking about what are the next one's going to be.
Yeah, there's an argument to be made for that. Thank you so much, Hans. Appreciate this. Always fun. Follow Hans on his YouTube channel and his X account, Hans C. Nelson. Thanks, everybody. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.